Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maude's Book Club. Another incredible interview lined up. We have such a stacked November with the Bobiverse, chatting We Are Legion, For We Are Many, the first two books of the Bobiverse series. Last night, I had the pleasure of talking to the narrator of the books, Ray Porter, but now the man himself who wrote the books, Dennis E. Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Listen, I get members of Maude's Book Club to submit questions for authors. And I'm looking at the document where everyone submitted the questions now, and there's some people frantically getting in last minute questions here. You by far have the most questions out of all of the authors that we've covered on Maude's Book Club. So
That could
I've
be good. That could be bad.
well, let's get through them if that's okay with you. I thought we'd go through
Oh,
all
yeah.
of the submitted questions because I've got a bunch that I want to cover, and I have a feeling there's going to be a bunch of overlap as well. Um, the first one is from Occult Stool. I can't believe I have to say the name, and it's not a seat. I love the pop culture references in the Bobiverse, but are there any references that are off limits for you or for the Bobs?
Um, Good taste, I guess. The Bobs don't get really crude or racist or anything like that. Um, I guess common sense.
Okay. But
Yeah.
Bob is an extension of you, so we're talking about kind of the pop culture references that you like and love. As a huge nerd that got even, and I think you saw this on our interview last night, that got the deep cut Farscape reference in the first chapter of the first book, what are some of the nerdy loves that you have that had to be involved in the series?
Well, Star Trek, obviously, and there are a lot of those, but I do like going for the more obscure ones. I put out some low-hanging fruit for people just so that they can get the idea, but I do like to have very, very subtle or obscure stuff in there too that people may or may not get.
Did I read or hear correctly that you've been vetoed with some of your references, saying that they were too obscure?
Occasionally, my editor has said nobody will get that.
What's the one that no one's going to get?
Well, the last one that he vetoed was a sarcastic comment in book five by one of the Bobs, something like, "What they figured out who got how they got the Tootsie Roll in the Tootsie Pop." And my original reference was, oh, they figured out how you get the caramel in the caramel bar. But that apparently is a Canadian chocolate bar. So Steve thought that most Americans would just be going, "What?"
As an Australian, I have the Milky Bars are on me, and no one knows what I'm talking about. But it's a whole like generational ad in Australia. The Milky Bar is a white chocolate bar, which is one of the best ones out there. And if you want to ever send me chocolate, find Milky Bars. Um, is like a little cowboy kid that saves the day, and he's like, the Milky Bars are on me. And that has taken off in like a slogan sense of, and a colloquial term of like, I'm paying for this.
Yeah, and but you'd never know about it outside of Australia, probably.
So what's a caramel milk then?
Caramel bar is caramel or caramel nougat surrounded by chocolate, and it's I think 12 pieces. You know, you can break it latitudinally and longitudinally. And one of the commercials that they ran for years was one of the mysteries of life. How do they get the caramel into the caramel bar?
That actually is ringing a bit of a bell.
Mm,
And you had to change
yeah,
it to what? Tootsie
uh,
Roll?
uh, Tootsie Rolls. Yeah,
Have you ever had
I
a
don't know if
Tootsie
you.
Roll?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. I remember the commercial for the Tootsie Rolls that involved the owl. How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center?
Yes.
One, two, crunch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Three,
that
says
one was
KP
good too.
Dubs.
But yeah,
Stargirl in the comments saying, I love me a Tootsie Pop. Okay, so maybe it was a good change. Maybe your editor was right for that one. I love it.
yeah.
Jay Buntrock says, who would make a better replicant, James Tiberius Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard?
Uh, Better as in would handle it better, or better as in would get along in the Bobiverse?
Who would make a better replicant? That is such an all-encompassing question.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk would be more popular
Okay.
because Bob is very much a TOS fan, more than TNG.
Okay.
Although TNG is still good, don't get me wrong.
Which one's your?
Um,
This is obviously your favorite too, then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm TOS.
Okay.
That set the standard for me. I mean, I was in elementary school when Star Trek came out, and I absolutely religiously every I think it was Wednesday night from 7:30 to 8:30 or something like that. I was there on the floor watching it.
Wow. That was Sequest to DSV for me. Do
I
you
watched
remember?
that one too.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
my brain, when you say TOS, is going to terms and services, and that's obviously not what it is. What is it?
The original series.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Or if you watch Lower Decks, it's those old scientists.
Okay. And are you watching Lower Decks, which is like the brand new Paramount animated
I've
series?
watched the entire series. It's done now.
Yep.
I think honestly, I think it's probably the best Star Trek series.
Why?
It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious, and it's chock full of references and guest spots by other Star Trek characters and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a Star Trek nerd's paradise.
Um, Everyone's going absolutely nuts about this. KP Dubs is our resident Star Trek fan and says Lower Decks is damn good, and TOS
Yep.
is the '60s version. The
Yep.
crossover was brilliant, and
Oh, that was the best.
oh, what
That was
happened?
absolutely the best episode. Two of the Lower Decks characters went back in time to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Anson Mount's group.
Yep.
And I mean, it's an animated series. So when they went through, they became the actors who play the characters
Right.
and played them live. And just really brilliantly written.
Stargirl says I'm not even a Star Trek fan. I love Lower Decks. I love that didn't really answer the question, but we got some deep Star Trek lore. I'm a Star Wars girl.
Ah, okay.
He
I mean,
says.
I enjoy Star Wars, but
Hey, Luke gets a mention. Luke's a whole replicant.
hmm, yeah, sure, why not? There's Star Wars in there.
Yeah. I can't believe you're all hating on DS9, says Zeshio. Are we though? Hating on DS9?
No, I don't hate DS9. I was getting a little Star Trek out by the point of DS9 and Voyager,
Hmm.
so I wasn't following them as religiously as I was TNG and TOS. But I mean, it's probably the most critically acclaimed Star Trek series.
Okay. I'm so out of my depths with the episodes, but the chat is going off, and I love that. And then Tim says, "May the force be with you." Okay, all is right in the world again. With Farscape though, because that is like the reference that I absolutely adore, and told a story about how it's shot in Sydney, and I got to meet some of the actors, and I said I was a big fan of the show. And Gigi Edgley, who plays Chiana, says you're one of 9 people in Australia that watch the show. And I'm like, well, 5 of them are my family. So I was like really into it. How did you stumble upon Farscape?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you at this point. The thing is, when Farscape came out, it was still network TV,
Yeah.
right? I mean, network TV was still the primary way of watching things.
Hmm.
So I would imagine it was just on Thursday nights or Friday nights or something like that, and I picked it up. It might even have been pre-TiVo, so you'd have to, be there Friday night at 8 to watch it, or you'd miss it.
100%. It was the year 2000 for me, and it was 9:30 on a Saturday night, and I stayed up late and discovered the show, and that was history for me. And that's where I get one of my favorite quotes that I always say, and that is season 4, when they started messing around with and experimenting in the episodes. That says, "There's always time for beer," and I've just adopted that into vernacular. The next question that we have here is Vaden says, have you set yourself up? And I kind of want to go, would you set yourself up to be cryogenically frozen in the future?
Absolutely. No question. I mean, assuming that there was some chance of it working.
Yeah, I was
I
going
don't
to
want
say
to
the
be,
pros and cons on that one.
yeah, I don't want to be just dropped into an Arctic lake like Captain America. That seems like a low probability um, technique. But assuming that they had some reasonable optimism to be able to revive people, sure,
What would be
absolutely.
more important, to remain a human or just to have your personality sustain?
I would prefer to remain a human, but I'll go for the second if not.
The situation that Bob finds himself in is that in a capitalist sort of movement of the future, um, the company that he sold his cryogenic rights to, in a way, were bought by someone else. If something like that were to happen, because that's so likely, right? How did you land on that idea?
Um, the thing is, I get asked about particular plot points and why I did this and why did that. And quite often the answer is that I needed to arrive at a particular spot in the story and I had to backfill it to figure out how to get there. So, for instance, I didn't start out with the idea of a theocratic fundamentalist society. I started off with the idea of Bob being property.
Oh,
Now, how do you get Bob to be property? Well, if you have a religious government, then he has no soul. So right away,
oh, got
bang,
it.
theocratic.
And that kind of caused a bit of a stir because I saw that there's almost a disclaimer on your website asking if you were a Christian or a fundamentalist, and you have
Yeah.
to sort of be like, no.
No, no, I am not. But the I guess I think a lot of religious people took a lot of offense to a lot of parts of book one. And if I want to give offense, I'll give offense. But I feel a little cringy about being given credit for giving offense when I wasn't intending to do so.
Yeah.
You know, I that was a vehicle for arriving at a particular spot in the book, and that's all it is. And if you want to, do handsprings over it, well, I can't help you.
We had a really great conversation about that with the book club discussing the first book of like separating, religion and state and what that would look like should the all consuming power choose religion as a backing. And I think I'm quoted as saying that to me sounds, excuse the pun, god awful. But these are just the conversations about it all. I love that. If you intend offense, you'll know.
Yeah,
But I liked that. Colleen says, I thought it summed up the current set of affairs pretty well, actually.
yeah, I'm not happy about that.
Right.
Um,
And you were writing this around 2015 as
yep.
well. And we're back here again, Dennis.
Yeah. Interesting little tidbit on that. When I wrote the book, I originally set the whole handle thing and the takeover somewhere around 2024. And my editor at the time said, this can't happen that fast, if at all. You have to move it farther into the future. So I moved it to 2032. And that is one of my major regrets of the entire series, because if I'd left it at 2024,
You were right.
um, I'd be able to sell weather forecasting.
I was going to say, I mean, you're forecasting future here. That's what science fiction is, and it's one of my favorite things about science fiction. If given time and technology, where would we land as a human race, or further than that? Um,
Mhm.
the fact that you were spot on already makes me wonder what other things in your book do you think are the most likely to actually happen?
Oh man, well, if things do continue the way they did in my book, I do think that the next 100 years in the book is very likely, where the world will get balkanized. Scientific progress will grind to a halt, or near halt anyway. There'll be some consolidation of powers, into the United States of Europe, and so on and so forth. I mean, none of that seems unreasonable.
I also made a comment about Australia almost adopting a bit of a Switzerland approach to the consolidation process, and I loved that personally.
Yeah.
How did you land on sort of Australia and New Zealand having incredibly sort of like separated entities in all of this?
Simply because they're physically separated from everything else. It would allow them to stay out of things, to a certain extent. Um, I didn't go into detail about what happened in Africa, for instance. I don't know enough about African politics to have been able to make any guesses on that, and it wasn't necessary for the book. I had enough antagonists.
Right. That makes sense. Um, okay, I'm going to go back to the next question here. Colleen says, where do you get your ideas for writing? Is there anything that particularly inspires you?
My ideas are cheap and ideas are easy. I get ideas all the time. I have a list on OneNote of story prompts, 1 or 2 line ideas. And I think I'm at about 130 or 140 separate lines. Most of them are probably no good for anything more than a short story, but they're all, at least good for that, let's say. If I think of something, I might be walking, I might be doing the dishes, I might even be watching TV. I have a record button on my Apple Watch for voice memos. I just
Wait, I've
put
got
up.
one of those. You're telling me that I could be like Penny from Inspector Gadget and start dictating into my watch?
Yeah, the voice memo widget, and you just
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
yeah. And
Dennis,
you
you're
record
teaching me things.
you record, and later on you go on your phone and move it into the appropriate file.
I've just discovered how to leave voice notes on my Apple Watch thanks to Dennis, who I'm currently in an interview with. Okay, 7 seconds.
There you go, and it'll be on your phone too. The voice memos sync effortlessly.
Academics said I should totally change the wake word to go-go, like go-go gadget.
Yeah.
Go-go voice memo. I like that. Um, Academic is like, I hate that none of that sounds unreasonable. 2024 was still too soon. We have the tech and we're not quite at the Handletown levels. Um, Academic actually has written a bunch of questions in here as well, saying, as a happy practicing computer programmer, I was pleasantly surprised with the computer sciencey bits of the series. Did you find it difficult to strike a balance between technicality and understandability?
Oh, I wouldn't say I found it difficult. I have an editor to wave his finger at me for starters. But when I'm first writing, the old dictum, the first draft is shit. Um, when I'm writing, I just put in whatever I feel like it, and when I go back and do the editing after the fact, that's when I tone things down.
Oh,
Uh,
so you actually,
you
your
know,
first draft through is just like hardcore programmer brain.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of telling and a lot of narrative and not as much dialogue and so forth. I'm just trying to get the ideas down, the plot points down, and then when I go back and edit it, it turns into something readable,
Okay.
hopefully.
So plot is the most important thing for your story process.
Mhm.
How do
Yeah.
you then introduce character knowing that it's mainly one character with different iterations of it? Because I was learning that your initial prospect of Bobiverse, there weren't differences between the different Bobs because it was technically a replicant. and it was your editor that suggested to build some conflict, the Bob should start developing their own sort of personality.
Yeah, actually, in that case, it was my agent.
Oh, your agent did that one.
Yeah, because I didn't have an editor yet. Yeah, a lot of stuff came in after the fact, but that was very early on. That was before book one was even half done. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, the first version was done before I submitted it to Ethan. But yeah, I went back and I made a lot of changes for that, and it turned out to be very useful.
Yeah, I actually really like the dynamic and the shifts, but of course, I was trying to use the logical computer programmer brain and be like, if it's a direct replicant, how are there changes? And we had this whole conversation about code adapting and changing and constantly evolving, and then that's why the changes can occur. How did you kind of like explain differences occurring with coding?
Well, in the first couple of books, I actually explained replicative drift as trying to back up an analog process using a digital system. It's just like music, where the better sampling rate you have, the closer it is to analog. But any vinyl purist will tell you that it's just not the same.
So Bob's a version of music, just slightly altered. Okay.
Yeah, each one just a bit different. Now they turn out to be wrong about that as they start to discover in book four, but you haven't gotten there yet. So.
No, we've only done books 1 and 2. Oh, and you're currently writing book 6 at the moment as well.
Yeah.
Without spoiling too much, because we know what's happening in like book 1 is search, expand, survive. And book 2 is kind of goes more into, and I see it as almost like a documentary with David Attenborough as studying the Archimedes and the Deltans. I love that part of it, the biology part. Where does book 3 go and book 4?
Well, it's been so long since I wrote them that I'm not quite sure where things cut over. The Others' War I know the Others' War starts in book 2.
Yes.
In book 3, they resolve that.
Okay.
And there's some, I guess what you'd call personal issues with Howard, and some more battles here and there.
Okay.
Some more fighting, a little bit more exploring. There's not anything amazingly new in book 3. It's really a wrap up. It's the last book of the trilogy.
Because that's what I noticed on your website. You do call it the Bobiverse trilogy. Are you still saying this is a trilogy because it does expand?
Yeah. Well, the structure of the entire series now seems to be a trilogy, followed by a standalone, followed by another trilogy. Structurally, that's what it came out as. So Heaven's River is really standalone, although everything's in chronological order.
Yep.
And then books 5 through 7 form another trilogy.
And you're really big on timelines. You've mapped out sort of the timeline of events for this with a fine-tooth comb. Why is it so important to not have wiggle room in terms of the timeline?
It's just the way I started writing it. I wanted it to be a future history of the adventures of the Bobs. And, you can't have gaps and you can't have jumping around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just becomes too hard it's hard enough to follow as is.
A lot of Bobs.
But yeah, for the Bobs. But all the way through the end of book 7, it's all a continuous history, dates on all the chapter headings and so on and so forth. Any books that I write after book 7 are going to jump around.
So there's parts of the story that you were like, oh, I could have just sat with that a little bit longer. Here's another book. What are your favorite parts?
You mean that I'm thinking of writing?
Yeah.
Well, there's the Prometheus expedition, which I mentioned in book 4, which people keep asking me about. And that was just a throwaway line. But since there is so much interest, I'm going to have a Prometheus expedition.
Oh, no.
So that'll be a book.
Okay.
People have asked about the Daltons and their future history. So I'm thinking a book from the point of view of a Delta maybe 5,000 years in the future when they have a civilization.
Wow.
I'm thinking of making it steampunk.
Oh, that's fun. Is that because they have adapted? No, I mean because their deity was droid.
Just because it would be fun.
Oh, here I am again. I'm placing logic behind it all, but it makes sense. Like they were worshipping for a hot minute, and like they had a spike in their development because of
Hmm.
this droid-looking thing. So it makes sense that their whole aesthetic would kind of reflect upon the knowledge that they
Yeah,
got. Sir
yeah,
Dart says steampunk Deltons. Love it.
yeah, yeah. Their theology would sort of tend to, I guess, be built around the idea of a god that floats around and smashes things. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah. That was a really interesting conversation about almost a messiah complex that Bob OG has. Part of me wants to know the favoritism and almost invasion. Like he was so invasive with and puppeteering the Delton's progress. Why was OG Bob so hung up on that direction? The Bob.
Bob One has a very strong feeling of loss about his family,
Mm.
and this theme continues all the way through the books. Bob One is the one who misses his family the most. He's the one who tries the most for connection, which is why he's the one who always seems to end up in relationships that Garfield uh, harasses him for, if you will.
Howard as well, though.
Well, Howard has the one relationship with Bridget, but it's not at the same level. That's just a normal boy, girl, man, woman kind of thing.
It's
With Bob,
companionship over
it's
family.
yeah.
Mm.
With Bob, it's very much loss of family and trying to replace it.
Because we didn't really learn or understand much of Bob's family in the one chapter that we have. And I thought that that was a really fantastic part of the book where you meet your protagonist and after the first chapter, he's dead. It's not something that you see very often. What we knew that he had a sister. He didn't have children. Do you think that he had two sisters? Thank you. Thank you. Here I am. I'm like, end of book two. What happened in book one? Do you think that he regrets not being a father?
It has not come up. Actually, in 6 books, it hasn't come up. So I would have to say probably not.
Hmm.
He was still fairly young, and let's face it, thousands and thousands of Bob replicants
Are his
might just,
children
yeah, might just fill the
paternal
fill the void.
switch?
Yeah.
Do you
In
have,
fact,
yeah.
it might fill it to the point uh, like with somebody with a large brood of noisy kids. He's often on his last nerve with them.
Do you have a favorite Bob?
The one I identify with best is Bill.
Why Bill?
He's the science geek. He's the one who just, goes off into his corner and works on things. And he has complete freedom to work on whatever he wants. He's independent. He's not answerable to anybody. He's got all the resources he needs to do whatever he wants to do. It's
It's an ideal
it's kind of a
situation.
geek's paradise.
Yeah. I do like the fact that a lot of the conversation around the first book was the reward of being a loner and how Bob was almost the perfect replicant. And the reason why he survived all the rigorous testing was the fact that he kind of relished in isolation. How was it knowing that you were talking about this theme before the pandemic hit when an entire globe learnt about severe isolation? Oh, you've frozen. Oh no, we've
Oh,
lost him. It just reset for a second. Did you get much of the last question that I asked?
I think I got enough to answer it.
Hell yeah.
But you dropped out for a few seconds there. Um, there's a joke that the pandemic was on and isolation was on for 3 months before programmers noticed it.
Yeah. Okay. How did you find the pandemic then?
It was fine with me. You
Yeah.
know, I I don't commute, so I just stayed home. I wrote a lot. I watched TV. I played with my stuff. The only way it affected me was that you had to be cautious when you go out. You go into the mall or something like that. You wear the mask. You stay 6 feet from people, so on and so forth. You don't go out any more than you have to. But I'm my wife and I used to joke about that a lot. In that I'd be saying, "Oh no, we can't go over to our friend's house. We can't see people. Oh no, whatever shall I do?" Oh,
And then
you
when it
know,
stopped being a manageable excuse a few years later, you're just like,
yeah.
oh, I'm just
Well,
gonna have to say I
meanwhile,
don't
man,
want to go.
Blind was going stir crazy.
The what was?
Blind, my wife, was
Oh,
going stir crazy.
oh, Ray calls her blah. I remember this now.
Yeah,
Yep.
because she is very much an extrovert, and very close to her family and very close to her friends, and not being able to see people was harder for her.
I can imagine. Especially like for extroverts, it's how they replenish energy. They're energized by it. Yeah, they need that
Yeah.
catching up. Does she kind of impact or influence any characters in the book?
Well, Bridget,
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Irish, redhead, um, let's say plain spoken, shall we say.
I was going to say legend, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's not a biologist, but I needed a biologist, so Bridget was a biologist. Um, Blind is actually involved with the business, the writing business. She's the administrative manager, if you will, and she takes care of travel and stuff like that because I
Got it.
hate travel. Going on of introversion, I do not like travel.
Is
So,
has there been a place that you've actually really liked that you've gone to?
oh, I like being there. I like I go to a place I like being there. I just don't like going there.
Got it. The
So
whole
the
travel
whole
part.
airport and flight and thing like that, I could, if they ever invent teleporters like in Larry Niven's books, I will be the happiest clam on the planet.
Okay. We'll have to expedite the process for teleportation.
Sure.
And I know that a lot of technical advances happen because it is spanning centuries, your books. How much research do you do with where technology can go? Are you consuming sci-fi? Are you watching sort of like television shows that have futuristic concepts? Are you picking and choosing?
There's a lot of science channels on YouTube. There's a science website called Phys.org, phys.org, that's just constantly putting out science articles. That is a very good one for finding out about weird stuff that's going on. PBS on YouTube. I should have mentioned that. Um, just general articles and stuff like that. I do try to keep up on things.
So you would say that your ratio split is way heavier on the science than the fiction.
Yeah, yeah. Other than the few MacGuffins that are in the books that are necessary, the surge drive, Sadar, replication in the first place, cryogenics in the first place. But those are necessary to move the book along. Everything else is as close to scientifically plausible as possible.
Have you noticed that that's sort of like the fan base that you're attracting to these books? People who want to kind of really get their science on? Is
Yeah,
anyone?
you write what you like, right? You write the kind of book that you'd like to read. So I am writing the kind of books that I, as a science fiction reader, would like to read. Turns out I'm not that unusual. There's a lot of other science fiction readers who read the same kind of thing as me, and therefore my books get read a lot.
Are people in your inbox correcting you about science?
Oh, I've been corrected maybe a half dozen times on things, and on 4 out of the 6, they were wrong.
What were the two? Was that exciting or was that sort of like, ooh,
Um, they were generally minor points. The things that the things that people were wrong about was somebody was basically chiding me for having panspermia in my books. That panspermia is an old idea and it's been discounted and scientifically and so on and so forth, except that it hasn't.
oh, so that person was wrong?
Oh yeah, completely. Another person chided me for introducing moss on Ragnarok in order to get the atmosphere up because uh, the atmosphere is mostly generated by plankton. Except that Ragnarok isn't 70% water like Earth is, it's 30%, so there wasn't
Moss
going to
would
be
have
a lot
been
of
it.
plankton.
Oh.
They missed
Are
that.
you just
Yeah,
like right back being like,
no,
actually, oh no?
no, I do not do any well actuallying in my professional persona. I don't argue with people. I don't take offense from things. I don't get into. I just don't get into internet debates.
What a
It's not worth
peaceful
it.
life.
It kind of is actually.
Keanu Reeves is saying he's at that stage in his life where if someone comes up to him saying 2 + 2 = 5, he's like, yep, have a great day.
Yeah, whatever works for you, dude.
Sounds good to me. KP
Yeah,
Dub says, do not engage. Good strategy. An
yeah.
academic being the programmer says, of course, people correct. That's our people. Our tribe is literally called actually. Speaking of academic, has another question. On this re listen to the series, I've been struck that this feels more like the We Are Bob, We Are Product Managers. As you progressed in your career, did you find yourself more attracted to the product problems, a la Howard, or the technical problems like Bill?
I've always been far more attracted to the technical problems. Given my druthers, I would have left project management to somebody else and been the heads down programmer who comes in at 7 in the morning, sits at his computer, doesn't move except to get coffee until he leaves at 5 or 6. That's me. I'm a single track, single focus, uh, fix the problem kind of person. Project management is exactly the opposite. You've got 50 million things happening and you have to juggle them and
Put out
schedule
fires.
them and stuff. And it's not enjoyable. It's one of those things I can do, but I don't enjoy.
That's so funny because this book does prompt you to kind of be like, oh, if there were so many versions of me, how would I delegate? What would I want to do? And what would I want to never do again? And I'm happy to tell you, a lot of the people in the book club thought that Mario had it right, which was the so long, bail, never see anyone again, I'll figure it out, just disappear. Um, I really liked Homer, and I'm so sad with what happened to Homer. We haven't talked about it with the club yet, and I'm really actually quite excited to do so. I thought that Homer was almost like the caricature version, where he used humor and almost like smartassery to as a coping mechanism. But it turned out that I find Homer was the more observant and put together and collected person in terms of sort of interpersonal dynamics. I thought that Homer was really observant in a really critical ways in the first and second books there. Um, why did you make the decision to have Homer be like that?
That was one of those things that just developed. The thing is, somebody who's like Homer, they could either be a total frat boy, with no more depth than a pool than a puddle, or they could actually be somebody who does sit back and watch and uses humor and sarcasm and stuff to keep people at arm's length. And he was that kind of person. He didn't want anyone too close to him. But he did understand people. He just didn't like them.
Yeah, that's so relatable.
Yeah.
Um, an interesting thing that you did with Homer's character, and this is going a bit spoilers, but we've read the book, so we're all there together. Um, hacking. Hacking, obviously, if you're a replicant, if this is a digital technology, hacking is something that would obviously occur and be weaponized. What I really thought was interesting was the psychological damage that was left after hacking. How are we sort of like creating a psychological consequence when I would imagine you would be able to erase that memory, erase the coding, erase the trauma? But Homer decided almost to live through it until he couldn't.
Yeah, the thing about replicants, because of the way that replicants were created, they came with all the junk of the human mind. They weren't a nice, neat, compartmentalized computer program. An AI would have modules and submodules and sections and stuff like that. Well, think of HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? You float into the chamber, you pop out the little cards, and you're lobotomizing him. Then maybe you put in new cards, and he's better. You can't do that with replicants because everything's just
As is.
it's as is. It's a mishmash of millions of years of evolution. So you can't modify his personality. You can't selectively erase memories. The best you can do is go to an earlier backup.
Got it.
They didn't have that option with Homer.
How was the response to that moment? Because I think that was like one of the really first I mean, Arthur, sure, RIP. But I feel like Homer was like, oh, wow, we actually have a sense of loss. And when you've been expanding and, replicating so many that there's such a volume, to have one of them actually feel the impact of its erasure, let's say it in a delicate way. And yeah, how was the response to that?
I get a lot of comments about people miss Homer.
Yeah.
And is there any way to bring him back? And why did you have to do that? And so on and so forth. People die in books, and I mean, I didn't have it in for Homer or anything like that, but the way the story went, it was almost inevitable that one of them was going to go, and Homer just seemed like. This sounds a little cold, but he seemed like the right one.
Well, it raised the stakes and it showed like a huge element of consequence.
Yeah, it also set the rest of the Bob, excuse me,
You're excused.
set Riker and the rest of the Bobs on a specific psychological path. It's kind of like a moment of growing up. Things went from being a video game to being really real.
I felt that. Alicia says, agree, there needs to be finality to death. And I feel like I joke about this a lot, especially in a lot of pop culture, comics, beloved characters. There's always like, especially in comics, there's always like the nerd effect, which is the acronym no one ever really dies. So many characters are brought back. There's another iteration. There's a multiverse. There's always a reason for a character return. So the finality, I think, is important.
Yeah, there was a movie, I think it was called Soap, a lot of years ago, where they decided they wanted to bring a character back in the soap that they were producing. This was a movie about the actors who were helping to develop a particular soap opera. Anyway, they wanted to bring this character back, and one of them said, "But she was beheaded."
You kind of can't undo that one.
We'll think of something. We'll think of something.
Resurrection, body transplant. We'll figure it out. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeff is in the comments big time. Loves to ask pizza questions. So we're going to go here and take this one with a grain of salt because it's Jeff, and that's all I'll say. Favorite pizza toppings? And as a Canadian, are you embarrassed that Hawaiian pizza was invented in Canada?
Well, I'm not embarrassed about it. I
didn't
just don't
even
eat
know
it.
that.
Yeah.
Hawaiian pizza is one of my favorites, okay? I like pineapple on pizza, and Jeff is not okay with that. And so there's a huge divide in the book club if pineapple on pizza is acceptable or not, hence the pizza question.
We have me and Ed's combo at home a lot, and it has pineapple on it along with like 7 or 8 other toppings. My wife just picks off the pineapple from my half of the pizza and puts it on hers. Everybody's happy.
You don't like pineapple on pizza?
It's I'll eat it if it's there,
Okay.
but I won't miss it if it's not.
Okay, well, there you go. Coffee is a big recurring theme I find in the book. I would always notice that all of the Bobs, being, Bob OG Replicant, uses coffee as almost the staple, the anchor, the comfort, the fuel. Coffee is a really big and prevalent part. I was almost like drink every time coffee is mentioned. Jeff asks, how do you take your coffee?
Actually, cream and sugar. Well, cream and Splenda. I like to keep the sugar down, but just my friends drink their coffee black, and they make fun of me. But it's however it tastes. This isn't a test of manliness.
Oh, right. How
It's
black is your coffee? How much
Yeah,
caffeine are you injecting?
you can drink it 3 days old and black. Oh, my coffee's so dark that the spoon dissolves. You know,
I'm a coffee
it's
snob
just
and I can't even stand the way that you're talking about the coffee. Coffee has to be an espresso for me. Coffee's an
yeah.
espresso, needs milk in it, non negotiable milk, not creamer. In a
Okay.
latte, no sugar. Two a day,
Well,
one a day.
well, I am philosophically lax about coffee. Everybody can have their coffee the way they want, and I don't see the problem as long as it's coffee at base. Um, my favorite coffee is Nabob Full City Dark, and that's a Canadian coffee, Canadian
Maybop.
company. Nabob, yeah, it is a Canadian company.
You just can't escape the Bob.
Oh, jeez.
It
Okay. Yeah.
was right there, Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't even see that coming. But it really is a good coffee, and I miss it whenever we go traveling. I guess that's one of the reasons I don't like traveling so much
You don't
because
think
coffee doesn't seem to be as good anywhere else.
you should really go to Australia and try. We were talking about coffee a lot, and all chat's got an opinion about it. We actually only have about 8 more minutes, and I've got so many more questions. So let's try and do
Oh,
a
yeah.
rapid fire to get through the rest of these. Vaden asks, "How have your experience with athletic hobbies affected your writing? How has your experience with athletic hobbies affected your writing?"
I well, it doesn't, but not directly. But uh, sports is are very relaxing. I do non-competitive sports, snowboarding and mountain biking, so it's not like I'm in competition.
No,
Um,
with your body, you are. Every single day, you could break everything.
I'm in competition with gravity,
Yeah.
but not with other people. Um, when you're snowboarding or when you're mountain biking, you cannot think of anything else. Your mind can't wander. You can't be worrying about the mortgage. You can't be worrying about what your credit card level is or whether the car is going to last another 1,000 miles or something like that. There's a tree coming up. You worry about the tree coming up. So you're very much in the moment, and it's healing.
Yeah.
It's it's very zen.
Okay, you have to close all
So
the tabs that are open in your brain.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to close everything down except the one immediate thing that's in front of you. So I do that to relax. I do that to turn off my brain.
Okay, I love it. Clever Girl says, "Can you summarize your writing process?"
Chaotic.
Chaotic.
I yeah,
Nice.
I think of myself as a plotter. You
Hmm.
know, plot the whole thing out and then write it. I'm kidding myself. I'm a pantser very much. I start out with a an overall idea, and I may start out with a plot arc, but it usually goes out the window by the first third of the book. And the characters take over. I'm writing the characters, I'm writing them as realistically as I can. And what I'll find sometimes is once I've developed a personality for that character, I come to a point and I say, well, they wouldn't do that.
Mm.
That's that's not what Bill would do. You know,
Yeah, so like by
that's no,
preempting, you've put him in a box. Yeah.
yeah, I can't write them in that direction, and I have to figure something else out. So the story just goes off.
Let it, yeah. Don't clip the wings. Um, Snores says, was it easier or more difficult to create the personalities of all the different Bobs versus traditionally different characters?
Um, I'd say easier because with the Bobs, you really only had to vary one or two parameters. And in fact, that was the whole point of replicative drift is that one or two things change, but most of the rest of it stays the same.
Fascinating. I would have thought it'd be the other way around. What one thing am I going to change while keeping the rest and still having it sort of distinct? The Bobiverse provokes many interesting philosophical questions about humanity, immortality, responsibility, etc. Was this intentional?
Very much so. Yeah.
Great. Were the stakes were there stakes to the dare from the wife that motivated the first book? What? I'm reading these verbatim.
Yeah. No, I get that. There wasn't anything long term. I stuck that in to put Bob in a state of mind for the first chapter. That's all it was. She was kind of a fridging, I get a refrigerator. Is it fridging or refridging?
Fridging's the term, yeah.
Fridging, yeah. She was a bit of a fridging from that point of view.
Okay. All right, good. I'm glad you get that one. As a fellow Oh, here you go. As a fellow recovering IT professional, do you have any advice on resources that helped you transition to writing the first books?
You don't really need resources except a copy of Word or your favorite word processor. I have found that writing a book is very much like writing a program. You have structure you have to worry about, you have continuity, you have to fix bugs. It has to work in the end. It's just the feel is the same, and the endorphin rush from finishing a chapter or finishing the book is very much the same as the first time your program compiles.
I have to take your word for it because I don't know what that's ever going to feel like. But there
Yeah.
are a lot of I'm going to call it IT nerds in the book club. So I hope that
Mhm.
lands. Something that you say on your website, your slogan, the journey from irate reader to nervous author. What made you an irate reader?
Um, I discovered Kindle,
Hmm.
ebooks on Amazon. I had a Galaxy tablet at the time, and I started downloading books like crazy. There are a lot of free books on Amazon. And I've read somewhere that there are somewhere between 3 and 5 million ebooks on
Wow.
Amazon, free and otherwise. So a lot of choice. Um, Unfortunately, the quality is inversely proportional to the rarity. And at one point, I was reading a specific book and I got like 3 chapters in, and I was just, oh my God, are you kidding me? I looked down at it. I said, I can write better than this. And Blahin said, well, give it a shot.
That's how it
So
all happened.
it started. I froze for a minute and thought about it. And then I fired up a copy of Word and started writing.
So you really put your money where your mouth was. I like that because a
Yep.
lot of people say I could do better and then never do. So you did better. And that's how
Yeah.
you published your first book, I believe, using that same concept of putting a free book out there. And well, it was monetized, and you were saying you were making coffee money from that. To
Yeah.
go from self-published and making coffee money to now having the Bobiverse rights in the hands of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, two of the most incredible, and this is out because I did the panel for Project Hail Mary at Comic Con, and Aditya was just like, by the way, we've got Bobiverse.
You were there when he said that?
Yes. And
He scored.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that's an exclusive because we didn't know that his production company. So I did the panel with the president of Phil Lord and Chris Miller's production company. He announced, yeah, that the Bobiverse was happening because we had Ray Porter on our panel. Ray Porter is basically like whatever he touches turns to gold. What is it like knowing that the book is now with a huge movie production studio?
I'm going, oh please, oh please, oh please, oh
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
please. They're still working on the behind the scenes stuff, and I really can't say much more than that. But I will be happier than you would believe possible when they finally announce we're making the movie. Right. Right now, it's just we
We've
have
got
the
the
option.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But once, we've got the script, we've got the actor, we've got financing,
You've
we're
got the
making the
actor?
movie. No, no, I'm saying once they reach that point, that's when it's real.
Do you have an actor in mind for Bob? Because I think that that is the most crucial piece in all of this.
Yeah. I have an actor in mind. I've had people disagree with me about it. Other people have recommended other actors that I thought, well, that's a pretty good one too. But I've been thinking Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, that's so funny. Ryan Gosling for Project Hail Mary, Ryan Reynolds for Bobiverse. The
That
Ryans.
would be good.
And they're
That would
both
be good.
Canadian, Dennis.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good too. But the thing is, Bob has an attitude sort of like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Not as extreme as Deadpool, but he is the type of character who will break the fourth wall. And
Have conversations with himself.
yeah, yeah, and comment on reality.
Oh, I
So
like.
Reynolds is good at that.
I'm just trying to go through my entertainment data bank and be like, has Phil Lord and Chris Miller worked with Ryan Reynolds before? They
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's an extreme long shot, but if you have to ask who I might want, that's the guy.
No, I did. I love that. And people are now casting the rest of the movie in the chat, saying Jay Buntrock thinks Andy Serkis would be great for Archimedes. Sprinkle says Danny Pudi would make a good choice. Kay Frito is just saying, universe, please make it happen. An academic says, I love Reynolds. I see him as more of a Mark Ruffalo. No wrong answers, I say. And
Yeah,
that's the thing. Everyone's going to have an opinion on it, right?
yep, that's right.
Disciple of the Hand says, yes, please. Oh my God. You must be watching all of the success and trailers and releases of Project Hail Mary because this is almost like that movie can walk so that Bobiverse can run, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Project Hail Mary is a great book. It was, it was very well written. And well, I listened to the audiobook. Of course, Ray did the audiobook.
Sure did.
Uh, a very general comment, sort of almost a complaint, is that people would start listening to Project Hail Mary and they would be saying, "Hey, that's Bob," and it would
Because they
take them a
started
while
with
to
Bob.
shift gears. Yeah. So, yeah, okay, well, that happens. But I think that happens with the Joe Ledger books as well. If you go from Joe Ledger to Bobiverse, you hear, "Hey, that's whatever the guy's name is."
Because you have only sort of like the voice to go on. And so it locks into the character. Yeah. So
Yeah,
if people start at
yeah,
Bobiverse, then Bob's just everywhere, which is lovely.
yeah. It's Dark Side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bob, you sound different. Yeah.
yeah. You mad, Bob? You gonna
Occult,
destroy the world?
I was going to say, Occult still says, I feel like that with Will Wheaton. I hear Wade from Ready Player One now with Will's things. And I brought that up because I heard that when you were thinking of narrators for your book, Will Wheaton came to mind for you.
Yeah, but that was, I mean, no shade on Will. He did a great job with Ready Player One, but at that point, that was the only audiobook I'd ever listened to.
Oh,
So, oh, sorry, no, that and The Martian, which was R.C. Bray at the time, and I thought, Will is a much better fit. So I was thinking, yeah, get Will Wheaton in there, and he'd appreciate the Star Trek jokes, or maybe he wouldn't, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, my editor had a different idea. He thought that Ray would be better for a book with so many different voices and personalities, and he was right.
Have you noticed that Bobiverse's success is happening because people are finding him from other books and then following him to here?
Oh, no question. There's no question that Ray is a major source of the success of the Bobiverse.
Nice. Good land. And he's a lot of fun as well. And we also planted the seed last night that the more Bobiverse you write, the more you have to fuck with Ray when he's doing his reads for it all. So you and I should figure out right now, what is it going to be? Is there going to be an alien language that is only spoken in glyphs?
No, I do like to throw in accents once in a while, but so far he seems to be able to handle them. So it's probably not uh, a good strategy. And I do have an Iroquois word or two in book 6.
Equad?
So Iroquois,
What's that?
uh, Native American tribe.
He's going to have to bring it.
He's going to have to bring it. I have stuck in one scientific term that is about this long, and I haven't even tried to pronounce it myself yet. So I'm going to be interested in seeing if Ray can even find the pronunciation online.
The thing is, though, if no one's ever recorded saying it, you can't get it wrong if it doesn't exist.
Oh, that's true. That's true. He
That's
can
smart.
just he can just call it whatever he wants. It'll work.
It'll work. Jay Buntrock says, I have an Australian and a Kiwi have a long conversation to see how well he could switch the accent. Well, I've seen Ray do a really good Australian and Kiwi, and the differentiate, like there's subtle but clear differences. He's nailed that. I think he'd be great. You got it.
Yeah, I have to admit I don't know the difference, and I'm sorry to anybody I offend, but I don't have enough exposure to both types of accents to, really develop the ear for it.
The cure to that is spending a lot of time in both countries. So, Dennis,
Mhm.
as an
Yeah,
Australian, I implore you, you got to get the Switzerland of the south of the globe
yeah.
for
I would
research's sake. Oh no.
I would love to visit Australia. It's just that everything there wants to kill you.
Again, really good research on an ecosystem and survival, which is a key theme of your books.
Yeah. Or just stay in town.
No, even then, I mean, I was about to give you that, but no, I live in a suburbia area, and my parents sent me photos of two incredibly thick, almost like anaconda-esque type snakes going up the side of our house. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not selling this.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'd be going alone. My wife would say, nope, nope, nope.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Great coffee, though. With
Mm.
that, though, thank you so much for lending me an hour of your time and some change to talk about all things Bobiverse. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm glad we got to get through these questions. It's so much fun. Good luck with book 6. When is our expectation window for that one? Infinite Extent? Did we know the name of it?
That's very probably the final title. Yeah. It's a play on the same quote that I put into book 5. So it's a
Okay.
continuation.
So it's happening.
Yeah, yeah. This is just finished this round of editing, so it's going back to the editor by the weekend, and then he'll probably have more notes for me.
I don't know how I keep doing all this breaking news stuff just by existing, but I mean, I'll keep giving you all the good Bobiverse scoops, I guess. Thank you so much, Dennis, for your time. If
All right.
people wanted to continue exploring your work, where's the best place to do that online?
Um,
Because we were talking
I'm sorry.
offline that you're not on social media all that much, but if they were to follow you on a platform, which one would be the best one?
Well, there's on Facebook. There's fans of the Bobiverse, so there's a lot of Bobiverse people on there that can answer questions and get into discussions. And I do go on that group once in a while. My wife trolls it a lot more than I do. So if somebody comes up with a really heavy duty question, she will forward it to me
Oh,
and
cool.
I'll answer it. Yeah. I'm on threads every day, mostly reading.
Yep.
But if somebody ats me, I'll try to answer if I can.
Okay, wonderful. Threads is good too, is what the chat's saying. Sir Dart says, thank you. I joined in because I heard it on your thread feed. Hey,
There you go.
we did it. I'm going to continue the book club discussion with Maude's book club. We're going to go into a 2-hour discussion on the second book for this one. But Dennis, that's us done. Thank you so much for joining me on Maude's book club. This is going to be available on a video on demand on YouTube and also as a Spotify episode by the end of the year. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.